There we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. You may have noticed that today we don't have our loudest member, Roger Kibbe, but instead we've replaced him with Van. And so my name's Jonathan Pan. As usual, I'm a technical evangelist with Bixby. And here we have Van as well, who is a senior staff software engineer. Van, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Van Bugner. I've been working with FitLabs and Samsung for almost 3 years now, and I looking forward to talking about how I localized my brain capsule for the
Great,
market. Yeah.
great. So yes, today Van will be demonstrating how basically how you localize your capsule for various languages. And as always, it's always a pleasure to have Van present with us. He's given a lot of great presentations before for our office hours, and it's great to welcome him back. So, all right, Van, whenever you're ready, I guess we can just hop straight into the presentation then. We don't have
All
to wait
right.
around. Oh, also,
Mhm.
guys, real quick, 2 points. First point, yeah, sorry, Van, 2 points. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the chat below. And also, I left a link to the survey that you guys need to fill out for a chance to win 2 Galaxy S9s, which we will be doing a raffle and a giveaway for near the end of the webinar. So you do have to be here and you do have to fill out that form in order to be eligible for that. So yeah, that's it. And all right, without further ado, let's get started with Van's presentation.
All right. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Let me start by sharing my slides. Here we go. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
All
I can
right.
see them.
Great. So today I'm going to talk about capsule localization. I'm going to take a capsule and convert it from English to Spanish so that it will work in both languages. The capsule I'm going to be using is one that I created for the marketplace a while ago called My Brain. It stores things that you tell it, phrases that you choose in a database, and allows you to search for them later and recall them. And it stores a timestamp with each memory. This is the code for this capsule is available in a public GitHub repository. And you see the link here at the bottom. It's one of mine called van.memory. And I'm going to be using that to demonstrate, so you'll be able to follow along. In another slide, I'll show you how to do that. Let me talk a little bit about the capsule. The capsule is actually has a front end and a back end. The Bixby capsule part that we're going to go through localizing mainly is the front end, but there's a back end to this capsule in Amazon Web Services. There's a REST API and a AWS Lambda that runs JavaScript and stores what you ask it to remember into a NoSQL database. So we'll talk about the effect that localizing a capsule has on those pieces as well. When I refer to some of the things that we need to know for localization, I'm be talking about Bixby documentation. We have a website for that at bixbydevelopers.com. And you should be able to download these slides after this presentation. And there'll be links here you can use to get to some of the things to look up more information in the documentation. Okay, so as I give this demonstration, I'm going to be using a clone of my repository, and we'll check out a special branch that I prepared for the presentation. So if you follow these first two lines in your console, if you're set up with Bixby Studio already, you could clone this GitHub repository and look more closely at the code after this and see what I've done with it. I have three branches: presentation locales 1, 2, and 3. Sort of like when you're watching a cooking show and they want to take it out of the oven after an hour. We don't want to watch it bake for an hour. So the third branch is everything done, and you'll be able to see what that looks like. I've also got a link to the back end code in this in another repository, the Brain Lambda repository, in case you're interested in looking at that. So I'll leave those two links up there, the clone and the branch checkout here at the bottom of this slide, in case you're following along, while I talk about the steps for localizing a capsule. So the first step to localizing any capsule is writing it in such a way that it can be easily localized. So I call that preparing the capsule. So even while the capsule is all in English, for example, there's a lot you can do to get ready. And so first I'll go through some of those steps and show you how to do that. Then when it comes time to add another language, there's some additional files you'll need to add to your capsule, some information that'll be needed for that language. Then we'll work on the outputs. What your capsule shows and says. We'll translate those outputs, the views and the dialogues. And then we'll have a look at the processing, the backend, the APIs that your capsule is using. Do they need considerations for language? In this case, mine did need some considerations, and I'll show you how I handled that. And then finally, the capsule needs to understand what capsule user is saying to it. And so we'll translate the training that we made for English into Spanish and make it understand Spanish when it's spoken to. And I'll show you how to test it. All right, so let me switch over to the demo. Okay, so I've opened Bixby Developer Studio with my brain capsule loaded here. Let's look at the capsule BXB file. So you'll see the ID is example.memory rather than van.memory. When I publish the capsule, it's van.memory, but for the purposes of demonstration and for anyone that wants to try out this capsule, I have it set up with a test backend that works with this. So you can download this capsule and open it in Bixby Studio and try it yourself. As you can see here, it's just for English at the moment. There's no country code on the end of this, Bixby-mobile-en. It doesn't say -US or -GB for Great Britain or -IN for India. And by leaving that out, we let this work for all English languages. Let's see. So one of the first things that you need to do to make sure that your capsule is going to be localizable is to make sure that you've got all of your views, dialogues, layouts, all under the base folder in resources. So as opposed to you might have started with everything under a single English locale here under resources. But what you need to do first is separate all the dialogues and layouts and views and the capsule properties and endpoints all under base because they'll be shared by every single language that your capsule uses. That's pretty safe for endpoints, for example. You probably don't need to change it. These are all your JavaScript endpoints for your capsule. There's no English text in here. Capsule properties is similar. These are the default values for various capsule properties. In this case, this is a example of the backend engine. So it's got the API here and the client key. However, for dialogues, layouts, and views, you might have had some text in here. So for example, if we look at list response dialog, this code right here in the dialog is in English, or it was before I localized it. I've actually already gone through this process, but I'm going to go through it again here for you. This text is what's displayed when it's fetching the memories for a moment while you're waiting, while the user's waiting. It says getting memories, ... So in order for that to be localizable, to work in every language, we've got to separate those strings out into another file. Let me show you that. So this is the strings file down here. So we have taken every string that we have that's in English, anywhere in a view or a dialogue or layout, and we've placed it into a template macro def. These are the definitions. That's what the def is for. So a template macro def and a name. I use all capital letters for the names of my template macros, just to make it clear what they are. You could use mixed case here if you wanted it instead. And then the content of the macro definition contains the text in English. So, or whatever language you're doing it in. But see here, this strings.dialog.pxp file is under the en folder in resources. So this one's for English. So if we go back here In order to make this happen for your capsule, you have to replace the template that had the text in it here with this line that has a template macro instead and the name of a macro. So we'll get rid of this so that your dialog looks like this. And we have the name of the macro here, getting memories. So if we go to the definition, it'll go to the strings file, and you'll see there's a macro definition here for getting memories, and the content is that text that we just eliminated from the layout. So this is something you can do while your capsule is still all in English, and everything will continue working the same way. You get it prepared by moving all these strings over here. Now that was a relatively simple string. Let's take one that's a little more complex, a case that's complex. We have a view, for example, a list response view. And in this case, our message for this list, and this is when it lists all the memories that are in your capsule, it shows them on a single display. But before it shows them, it says something to you. Whether it says there's no memories if there aren't any, or it'll say if there's one, or it'll tell you how many there are if there's more than one, or it'll even tell you if there was a problem getting the memories from the back end. So this actually requires us to know whether the capsule succeeded and the back end succeeded, and to get the size of the memory list. So that's a little more complex. To replace that with a template macro, we need to do something a little more complex down here. And here we have we call the template macro, which is list memories, and we give it parameters. We're going to give it the so let's see. Okay, actually we have to put this here. No, I'm sorry. That's right. Okay, so we have a parameter called success, and we're passing it. The expression is this success, which comes from this and this success here. So we're passing in the list of memories too, which is this memories, and that's why we put the expression down here, this memories. So we name the parameters the same, but we have to pass in the actual this dot whatever it is. Okay, so we're replacing all of that text, all of that code, this. So inside of the view, we're not going to have any of the English text. Instead, we're going to say, go look at the template macro for it. All right, so let's go look at the definition of the template macro. Over here, you will say which parameters it takes. It takes a success parameter and a list of memories. And the memories is it could have many things in it. That's what makes it a list. And then we're gonna put that code that we eliminated from the view, and we're gonna put it here instead. And this is a language-specific file. So this strings file, remember, it's in the EN folder. So when we create a new language definition, we're going to be able to copy this strings file and replace the English text in this file with something else. And it's not just that you can replace the text for these things just as they are. You might need to replace some of the logic. For example, if you had a language that didn't have a concept of plurals, you wouldn't need two different messages for you have one or you have more than one. So there's that. Also, I don't use any what are called dialogue fragments in Bixby capsules. You might not either, but they help with pluralization. There's some documentation on how to deal with those when you localize, but what I actually prefer to do here is deal with translations of entire sentences. So that's why you don't see any dialogue fragments in my code here. I'm localizing without them, which is fine. All right, so let's see. Let me just show you these. So, and you'll see that my strings file is full of all sorts of English text and macro definitions. All right, so that's the output text. So this is how we handle the output. We also want to make sure, just before you go here that you check your code. You might have some JavaScript code for these actions that has some English text in it. Now, I've already eliminated all of that from here. So essentially, you need to move all your English text out of your Java code or JavaScript code in and out of your views and layouts and dialogues, all into that strings file. Okay, so let's start the process of adding something for Spanish. We'll go to the capsule BXB file to begin it. And I'll close all my other tabs. Okay, so to begin the process, you're going to want to create another target. So besides English, we're going to say B Mobile ES, which is the language code for Spanish. Now immediately you see it tells us, oh, we're missing some files. We're missing capsule info BXB, for example. And we're missing a few other things too. English, you'll notice, has a capsule info file, a hints file, as well as the string file. So let's create those 3 files for Spanish. The easiest way to do that is to right-click on the folder at the top and say, we need a new capsule info file. All right. Here we get a chance to create a new file. We're going to say it's for Spanish. And it's going to create a new capsule info file in our ES folder. It's a new folder for resources. We say create. And there we go. We get a capsule info file. It doesn't have anything in it yet. We're going to have to make that stuff up. I won't take you through that tedious process, but I'll pull that one out of the oven in a few minutes. We're also going to need the hints file. So we're going to say hints, yes, for Spanish. It's going to make, you can call it anything you want, .hints.pxb. So I'm going to call it memory.hints.pxb. And it'll create one there. This file contains all the sample utterances that the user will see in the marketplace to give them a suggestion about what they need to say to your capsule. And finally, we need a strings dialog file. Let's see, so I'll say a new dialog file. We'll call this one strings dialog. It's for Spanish. We create that. Okay. So you notice all of these files came with just templates in them, nothing really useful. What we're going to do, what you would need to do is you would need to copy all the contents of the English ones over to the Spanish ones. So capsule info file, you'd copy all of this and you'd paste it in here, and then you would modify it for what you needed to say. So, but rather than do that, let me go grab, let me close this and grab, I'm going to go out to the GitHub clone that I'm using for this, and I'm going to get, let's see, there it is. I'm going to check out the second branch, presentation locales 2. That's right, I'm going to get clean first. Remove the stuff we were doing. Okay. I'm still in there. Get check out box. I think that, yeah, all right. That special alias I used. Checkout dash dash dot. That's get checkout dash dash dot. It actually clears out whatever you're doing in Git and lets you check out a new branch. So, all right. So I've checked out the new branch. Let me open the capsule again. And I'll create another. In Studio, you can make a couple of rows here. So in one, I'll open the capsule info file in English, and the other, I'll open it in Spanish. Okay, so you can have a look and see what the differences are. All right, so this is what happened when I translated this file. You need to come up with a new display name and dispatch name for your capsule in the new language. So In this case, I came up with mi cerebro, which means my brain in Spanish. And I translated the description into Spanish. And also on the website I have for this capsule, I created pages that have the privacy policy and the terms in Spanish. I also updated the search keywords that you might be able to use in the marketplace to find this capsule. There are some considerations you need to make for other languages. For example, in Spanish, memoria refers to your entire memory that's in your head, whereas recuerda is a single memory. So uh, in Spanish, I don't use the same word for memory in both places when referring to your entire memory or single memories. And then, of course, recordar is to remember something or store it. So you wanna also let's see hints. There's another one we could look at. Let me show you the hints. The hints in each language. These are the things that the user can say to the capsule, and I made a translation of each one of these um, for the capsule in Spanish. Now, there's a special verb at the beginning of every hint that you decide on. For my brain, I thought it would make sense to say, ask my brain to do something. For Spanish, let me show you. There's a page in the documentation that shows you the reserved utterances for each language. And so for Spanish, you can actually see the list of things that Bixby considers reserved. You can use en or con el or con la. All these different ways that your capsule can be addressed around its dispatch name. So you're going to want to include that in your hint. So instead of saying ask my brain, I decided for Spanish to use with my brain, or con is with. So you actually use that here in your hints. And then finally, I also translated all the strings files. So if you look at the English, for example, up here, they're exactly the same, except for the text has been translated. So this is all you need to do to translate all the output files for your views and layouts once you've organized it this way. Okay, so we haven't addressed anything else yet. This is only the output. The capsule doesn't yet know how to listen for Spanish, and it also doesn't know what backend processing to do for Spanish that might be different than English. So let me talk about the processing step. So if you need your backend or your API to understand what language you're using, this is something they're going to want to talk about. You're going to pass to it. In the endpoints file, let's go back to a single window. In the endpoints file, which you might remember is in the base resources folder. This is for all languages, and this lists the JavaScript files that you're going to go to. So I'm passing them all this viv context input. It's one of the things that's available to you to pass along to your JavaScript functions. Let's go look and see how I use it. REST. In the code, the rest.js file takes this viv context argument it's getting, and inside of it, there's a field called CanType ID. A CanType ID will be Bixby-mobile-en-us if it's English, or Bixby-mobile-es-es if it's Spanish. And what I do here is I put it into the object, the parameters that I'm going to send to the backend in this post call down here. So I'm giving it to the backend. And let me tell you why. Let's see. So in the backend code, and here I've got a editor open on the util.js file in the backend repository. This is the JavaScript that's running on AWS near the database. In here, I take that can type ID, and I've got a function here that will convert it from this long string into a shorter string that contains only the language and the country code. And I've got another function down here that will take that long string and convert it to just the language code, EN, or ES, as the case may be. Now, these utility functions are useful to me because I'll show you why. When I'm doing a search for memories that you've stored in the database, uh, there are certain words that I want to strip out of the search phrases. I don't need the or it or my or of or and. So for English, these are the words that I want to strip out. So I set it up so that it will look for each language different words. So in Spanish, similar small words you don't want to include in the search because they're probably included in every memory in the database, or most. I've also converted this capsule to French, incidentally, and I'm working on a Korean translation. So that's what's one reason I need the language code so I can deal with the searching. The other reason was in my capsule for time, I'm using a JavaScript library called Moment. And Moment is responsible for giving me those nice phrases like, oh, a minute ago you told me this, or a month ago you told me that, or an hour ago. However long ago you mentioned that memory, uh, Moment is responsible for the English text that comes back about how long ago that was. So in this case, I want to give Moment the locale name because it's capable of doing it for all the languages, but it needs to know the language and country code. So I pass it to Moment here, and that way, when I ask for that text later, I get it in the right language. Okay, so that's the back end processing. So whatever your capsule does, if you have something that does special in a back end somewhere, you may have to um, you may have to make allowances for that. So that's what I've done there. All right. The next step is input. So let's close all these windows. How do you get your capsule to hear Spanish and understand it when they talk to it? That's a matter of the training. So let's close the code. We'll close the base. Okay. You'll notice here that for English, there's training. For Spanish, we don't have that yet. We also have some stories, but those are for testing. We have a folder with vocabulary, and we haven't looked at this yet. So the vocabulary is actually something we'll also need to translate. And it helps to translate any vocabulary files first before you try to do training. It'll make it a little easier on you. So to do that, we will need to create a new vocabulary file for Spanish. And we'll call it delete confirmation. This is a vocabulary file for basically how to say yes or no for do you want to delete something. And we've got a folder for vocabulary files, so we'll put it in there. All right, so now we have a vocab file. It's empty, but it's in the same place as the other one. So we will copy the other one. And we don't need these are all different alternatives for how to say yes or no. Um, no is the same in both languages, actually, but yes is sí, Spanish. There's actually supposed to be a little accent on that I. Now, if you need something like that, you can actually get help from Google Translate. If you just type Google Translate into Google, you can get to this translator, which is very helpful. So you can type anything into it, and then you can copy what you get on the other side. There's C with a little accent over the I. So we'll go back and we'll paste that in there with the accent. Okay, so now we have delete confirmation, yes and no. There's other things that I'm going to put in there, and you'll see that in the fully baked version. Okay, so vocabulary file check. Convert any vocabulary files. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take all this training that you have for English and you're going to copy it. You can copy it over to Spanish so that you can start translating it. And the easiest way to do that is to go look at the training. I'm going to use this one on the bottom here. This is the new version of training version 2. And it has the capability of copying entire sets of training. So we'll go to one of the English ones. Any one will do. All right, so here we have 109 items of training this capsule. The best is to try to limit the number of training items you need. This capsule does quite a bit now, so I got up to 109. I'm not going to take you through translating 109. That's going to be in the fully baked version I'll show you at the end. But let me just show you, there are 10 ways to get to the goal and just show you the list of all the memories. You can ask it, what are all my memories? Tell me my memories, show all memories, how many memories. These are all the different ways in English you can ask the capsule to show you all the memories that it has in the database. Great. And so on for all the other things. So we're going to get back to where we're showing all 109 items. And this ... menu over here, we can select them all. So we've selected all 109 training items. Now we have the opportunity to copy these items to another target. So we'll hit copy. And in the drop-down menu, we'll choose one of the Spanish targets. There's one for Spain and one for Mexico. It doesn't matter which one you use, because here it gives you the opportunity to copy it to the language code or the country code or the device code. So we'll pick the language code, which is lowercase ES, and we'll copy them all. Okay, so you'll see they showed up over here, which is good. There's a little bug that I'm going to file after this to make sure we fix it, but it keeps saying saving over here. You can safely ignore that. The workaround for that is to close the training and open it again. So now we'll go back to Spanish. So now we're in the Spanish training. You'll see all these are still in English. No surprise there. We haven't done anything to them yet. Okay, so let's look at the ways you can say, what are all my memories? By clicking on the goal over here, list response. There's 10 different ways to say it in English. Okay, so to translate one of these, actually you have two options. If you're going to use someone's help to translate all of your things all at once, and you want to give them a file that contains all these trainings, you can do that by getting them from the file system here under training. There's a number of files here under the training for Spanish that will contain all of these strings, and you could get them to update these files with the new strings if you wanted to edit them by hand. What I'm going to show you today is to edit them in the editor here. So what are all my memories? You click on it, okay, and it shows you the English text here. We're going to copy it. We go over to Google Translate, paste it in here. Now here you get a translation.
¿Cuáles son todos mis recuerdos?
There you go. And you copy it and go back and paste it. And then you save. So now we have one that's been translated into Spanish. And you would do that for each one. And you might perhaps not need all of these. If they're really similar in English and you can't think of different ways to say it in Spanish, it doesn't matter if you have the same number of them. You just delete the ones you don't need. That's a pretty straightforward one because it doesn't have any annotations. So let's go to something a little more complex. We'll look at the memorize response. And this is when you tell my brain capsule to remember something. You say, oh, I remember the cookies are on the back of the second shelf on the right. And what it'll store in the database is this underlined part where the cookies are. And the remember part is the verb that helps understand what you're talking about here. Remember or memorize. So if you want to, you're going to want to edit these too. But these have an annotation. So first we're doing the same thing we did before. We copy the whole thing. If you know Spanish already well enough, you could just, I guess you just know it. I'm not that good of a Spanish speaker. I took it in college, but, and then you copy it. Okay, so the thing is this recuerde que, this first part, that's the verb. We're not gonna want that to be annotated, but the rest could go in the annotation. But for now, we're gonna just copy the whole thing. And I found the easiest way to deal with it over here is to click on this checkbox to show the aligned NL. And this shows you the underlying code, as it were, that deals with this annotation. First, you've got the goal, memorize response, and then inside parens, you've got the annotated part, and it's the memorize input concept. So first, we'll start by replacing all of that with everything. But we want to take out this recuerde K part and use it on this side of the paren. So there we go. We've got the verb part out here that Bixby will use to recognize that telling it to remember something. And then we've got the actual what needs to be remembered that follows. We save that. So now you see we've got our annotated response in Spanish here. And you would need to do that for each of these different ways to say it. In English, I think I covered to remember to and memorize, remember that, remember without something after it or without a preposition. So there's different ways to say the same thing, and you want to give enough training so that it'll recognize all those. And for another language, it might be a little different. Your verb placement, or it might be after the phrase, could be anything. So you want to be cognizant of which kind of thing you need to do for that language. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like when it's done. We're going to pull it out of the oven. So I'll close this capsule here to keep from confusing Studio. And I'm going to come out here and clean it up again. Have the file still checked out? Okay, now I can check out presentation locales 3. That's the branch where everything is done and it's all cooked. Okay. So now, if we go look at our training, we'll see you've got 104 in Spanish. As it turned out, I didn't need as many as I'd used in English to do it in. So here they all are. Here's all the ways we could ask it to list all the memories. And here's all the ways we can tell it to remember something. Some cases, I think I actually came up with different examples. One thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you are covering the training for all of your hints. So everything that you tell the users in the marketplace that your capsule will do, you want to make sure these hints are all covered. And we're going to actually test those. So let's take something from here. Let's see. With my brain, remember that I need to buy potatoes. I like this one. I'm going to take that one. I just need the part after with my brain. And I'm going to put it in the simulator, make sure it works. So just I need to select use Spanish here. Okay. And I can paste in, I want it to remember that I need to buy potatoes.
Recordaré que dijiste, necesito comprar papas.
Okay. It's saying that I'm going to remember that you said I need to buy potatoes. I should probably show you what that does in English first to make it a little less confusing. Sorry about that. let's do that. I'll show you in English as well. Okay, we're going to do, okay. Let's see. Remember that I like butterflies. Okay.
I will remember that you said, I like butterflies.
This is what it does in English. And let's see. And you can select the memory and you can delete it again or edit it, so forth. There are all these conversation drivers down the bottom. These were also translated too because they were just template macros like all the others for the text. All right, so let's see, if we list all the memories, let's go back to Spanish. Okay, if we list all the memories, which I think is lista todos.
Tienes 5 recuerdos.
We actually use the same database for all languages for us, for a person. So everything that you store as a memory, no matter which language you use it, is all going to end up in your bucket. So you see here we've got I need to buy potatoes and I like butterflies. We just added those. So I'm going to delete this one. Spanish now. So borra means to erase. So erase this memory. So
Borré el recuerdo.
But you basically want to test everything that your capsule could do in English. You're going to want to test to make sure that it works in Spanish, and especially your hints files. So let's go back and try another hint. And this time I'm going to make a story. You may remember the last time I talked with you all, I told you how to test with stories. So we're going to make a story that will automate this test. So we're going to say, remember that I need to take my vitamins. Set this. And to make a story, we're going to want to show these steps over here that it takes. And we're going to say, remember that I need to take my vitamins.
Recordaré que dijiste, tomé mis vitaminas.
Okay. And then we're going to list all the memories.
Tienes 5 recuerdos.
And as part of this story, we're going to remove the top one with the one we just made. We're going to click on it, and then we're going to erase it. I'm going to click on that down there.
Borré el recuerdo.
So now we have 4 steps that we've taken. We've recorded a memory. We listed the list to look at it. We looked at that individual memory, and we are erasing it. So I'm going to export a story here. This will be a test of that memory. It comes up with a name for the memory based on the first thing you said in it. We can store it in resources ES next to our other Spanish stuff. And we're going to ask it to add a test assertion for every step of all 4 steps. If we say save, then it'll create a story, 4 steps. It'll run through it. It'll tell us, okay, we're going to create assertions. Great, create the assertions. All right, so for each step, for example, here's the first step. Here's a screenshot of the step. And then down here you have an assertion for the step. Let's see, I think we need to run it again to get that assertion to run. There we go. So it figures out it's a memorized response. That's the name of the model that we used. And here's the speech in Spanish. Same with the list, there's a speech in Spanish. So when we're working on this capsule and we have to change the training or something, we can always run this story again and make sure it still works, that recording something like this will still work, storing a memory. Okay, and then you'll see the story went here under ES, sorry. ES folder on the left, there's your story. In English, I made a folder to put it in. You can do that if you want to. You can say, I have a folder for stories. And you can drop it in there, drag and drop it in there. So now it's under the stories. Okay, so that's testing. One more quick thing to show you what it looks like in the marketplace. So in order to, once you're all done, you're going to need to update the version number of your capsule and submit it, just like you did submit it to the marketplace the first time. Once you do that, it's going to show up in the marketplace under the new language. So, and you don't have to do anything else as long as you've done all this, which is admittedly quite a lot. Okay, so what does that look like? I'm going to show you on my phone. To do that, I got a screen monitoring application called Let's View, I think. It's free. So let me connect it real quick. Okay, make that a little bigger. All right. Okay, so this is the top level window for Bixby. And if you, right now I've got it set to English. So if you want to see, let me go back there real quick. There's this up in the upper left corner, you have a hamburger menu. You press on that. It goes over to a menu for yourself. And in the upper right corner, there's a cog wheel here. You hit that, and the settings for your own Bixby, you can change the language and voice style. So that first one, if I click on language and voice style, currently it's set to English. If I click on language, I can choose Spanish. And there's two different voices, a female one and a male one. I'm just going to leave that. So now it's in Spanish. Actually, the whole thing switches to Spanish. Oops. If I go back out here, okay. Oh, actually, that's not where I needed to go. Back in there again. If I list mi capsulas, which is my capsules, these are the capsules that I've loaded in the marketplace already. So I already enabled my brain capsule, Spanish. There it is. Mi cerebro. If I click on that, it shows me the hints. So these are 3 of those 11 or 12 hints that I had listed in the file. If I hit this little arrow, it'll let me go to see all the hints. I'm going to look for the one that shows me all the things in the list. There is near the bottom. Con mi cerebro enumera todos los recuerdos. That's the list of all the memories. I click on that. So actually run Bixby.
No hay recuerdos.
In Spanish. Now on the phone, it's using a different user ID, so it actually gets stored in my backend in a different place than the other memories. So let me go add something. I'm going to tell it to remember that I need to take my vitamins. There we go.
Recordaré que dijiste, tomé mis vitaminas.
Okay, so it's remembering that I need to take my vitamins. If I say list all the memories,
Tienes uno recuerdo.
there you go. Now I have one. So there you go. That's what it's going to look like in the marketplace. People that run their phones and Bixby in Spanish are now going to see your capsule, whereas before they wouldn't have been able to see it at all. This was only available in English. Put this back. Okay. All right. So what I found typically is that since I have converted my capsule to Spanish and French, the number of users has doubled. The number of users in Spanish and French combined is equal or greater than the number of people that were using it in English. And that's kind of gratifying. So I encourage you to localize your capsule, make it available in more languages, and you'll be able to increase your user base and the usability of your capsule. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if we want to move to that part of the presentation.
Okay, great.
Presenting real quick here. Maybe I should still present just in case. I'll stop.
Great, guys. Thanks, Van. That was a great presentation as always, and you've actually convinced me to consider localizing my capsules.
Awesome.
So yeah, thanks, Van. And let's see. So in terms of questions for this, we got a few. And near the beginning, our residential Alex asked, anyone building any exciting capsules lately? And I guess I'll start. I've been working on a baby names capsule since I guess my wife and I are expecting a baby soon, and it just seemed pretty fitting in terms of the theme. And I will be making a tutorial series on that in terms of building the entire backend with the database, and then having you use and build a capsule on top of that. So what about you, Van? Have you been working on I see you've been working on localizing your capsule.
That's right. There's a couple of other capsules in the marketplace that I've done. There's one called Nice Things, which I worked on in collaboration with Alex and John. And the capsule tells you nice quotes, things that you may brighten your day. That one I haven't localized yet. So, but and I have another, Alex and I have another one we're thinking about doing, but I'll keep quiet on that until we're done with it.
Confidential.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, okay. And Junior asked, do we have a limited amount of, I believe, space for capsule localization? Van, do you know anything about the space limits of localizing capsules or just capsules in general?
Every localization gets another 2,000 utterances. So when you're doing training for your capsule, you can I think it's actually don't quote me on that. Actually, I'm not sure about that one. Let me go check that. Actually, I'll present for a moment so I can show you what I'm looking at
Okay.
to answer that question, because I know how to find the answer to that question. If we go to the training dashboard for the different localizations that you have for your capsule, you'll see, yeah, here's the answer. So 100 and all these 3 English ones, they all share the same 2,000 training entry budget.
Mm.
But if you look at the 2 Spanish ones, they're sharing a different budget. They're using 104 out of their 2,000 training entries. So for each language you convert your capsule to, you get to have another 2,000 training entries. 2,000 is a big number. I mean, I was able to implement everything my capsule does in 100 or so training entries. So
Oh.
this is lots of space. Yep.
Yeah, okay, great. So that's actually good to know. I didn't know that either. So yeah, that's the thing about Van's presentations. Every time he gives them, even like people like me and Roger who couldn't join us today, we always learn something new. So okay. And next question for Van, how long does it usually take you to to localize for a new language like this?
That's a good question. I think to go through the initial preparation steps to make your capsule internationalizable, probably you'll have to spend a number of hours on that. Maybe I think I spent for this capsule, I might have spent 8 to 10 hours just getting all those English phrases into the strings file and out of the views and layouts, because I'd originally just written it just only for English, and I'd put the English strings everywhere in the code, and I had to move everything all out and organize it better. So if you write your capsule that way from the beginning, you won't have that problem. But if you have to convert an existing capsule, you might need to spend a number of hours on that. Once you've done that, then translating all those strings, it's tedious, but it can be quick, a few hours of work probably.
Okay. And next question, what issues do you run into with training the capsule?
Hmm. Um, when converting to another language, you sometimes don't have as easy choices. For example, in English, you might say, remember that something, remember that I told you this. And then when you want to hear it back, you might say, what did I tell you? Or recall what I told you. Remember and recall are 2 different verbs that you can use them to separate between storing and retrieving. But in Spanish, I think it was the same verb is used for both. So you have to be more creative. So some languages might give you a pause. It might make you rethink how you are doing the interface in case you have to. The common verbs are not matching up exactly between languages.
Okay, great. And the next question, where are the cats and dogs? I have one cat right here. We'll see if she cooperates. If you guys can see her, but there she is. She's very sleepy. And I know Van has, I think you mentioned you have a dog in the room somewhere, but maybe he's...
Yeah. Let me stop presenting here real quick so I can put them on the camera maybe. Oh, stay there. It's okay. Yeah, I have the dogs. They're laying down here.
Oh, there they are.
All right, there you go.
They look tired as well. I think it's
Yeah,
sleepy
just
time.
sitting, laying, listening to the presentation.
I think they enjoyed it too. So, all right, great. We are nearing the end of our time, and that gives us just enough time to give away 2 S9s. So we had a lot of people sign up, and that's awesome. And we will just ask Bixby, give me a random number between 4 and 76. Oops, I wasn't pressing the button down. Give me a random number between 4 and 76.
Processing some equations. Okay, your number is 62.
62. Let's see who that is. That is Henry Yip. Congratulations, Henry Yip. You have won a Galaxy S9, and we will be emailing you not too long after this to get your information. And the next winner will be, give me a random number between 4 and 76.
1 second. Just double checking my math. All right. Looks like your number is 56.
56. And that is James Todd. Congratulations, James Todd. You have also won a Galaxy S9. And again, we will be contacting you two shortly, and really appreciate you guys for coming and swinging by our live stream and seeing Van's amazing presentation as always. So yeah, there we go. I guess, another great office hours. And Van, is there anything else you'd like to say?
That's it. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you again next month. We do these monthly, so just be sure to stay tuned and check your email. So great, guys. Thanks for joining.